All right, good afternoon, everybody. Again, this is Sun Win from the Michigan Ross MBA Admissions Office. I wanted to obviously thank you for spending the time with us this afternoon here in Ann Arbor. We're at a very exciting part of the school year right now with all of our MBA students back, as well as my admissions team traveling throughout the country and throughout the world. I was just in Asia. Michael and Brian were just Latin America. Michael was in Texas. Tay and Diana have been all around the U.S. So we are happy to be on campus for a little bit here, and today we're here to talk about global opportunities. So we've got almost 200 people registered, so just kind of hang with me today. Feel free to type in questions as we go, and then we'll answer a few at the end as well. I want to start off by just talking a little bit about why you guys are all here today. You know, that the fact that you have some interest in Michigan, and just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page about what we stand for here. We really believe in developing leaders, and leaders that go out and make a positive difference in the world. And by that, you know, we mean more than just dollars and cents. We mean more than just revenue for the company or the place that you work. We're talking about contributions to your fellow employees, as well as the shareholders, and to the communities, as well as the businesses. And you know, we know that if you're looking at Michigan, you're looking at top MBA programs. And so we really do want you to look at MBAs from that frame of mind when you're looking at Michigan. In terms of our actual experience, we think there are three main things that we always like to talk about that are part of what we do here. We talk about being a leader in experience-driven learning. You know, that's not just math, but it's also in how you learn to invest in our funds. It's also in all the projects that you have, and the teamwork and the collaboration. We talked about the close-knit community. You know, being here in Ann Arbor lends itself to building a stronger community, and you know, we'll talk about that as we go too. And the last idea that we talk about a lot is go blue, go anywhere. And for us, go blue, go anywhere doesn't just mean where you end up geographically, but it also means getting you where you want to go in terms of student experiences all around the world, and for jobs and careers. So today we'll talk mostly about the global opportunities part of the Ross MBA experience. And with that, I do want to touch base on our global community. You know, when you come to Michigan, you're choosing to come to Ann Arbor and really surround yourself with a really, really diverse student community. And you know, you're going to get support while you're a student here, and support for the years to come with the alumni that we have from Michigan. Also, we're going to talk about academics and how that will give you an opportunity to touch, you know, global travel and you know, worldwide academics. And for us, it's not just our multidisciplinary action projects, but we also want to talk to you about our immersion and exchange programs in terms of academic offerings. Obviously, it's not just that. We also have student travel. We have multiple treks, as well as our big M-Trek before the start of the school year. We'll tell you about that as well. And then lastly, I'll just real briefly tell you about some of the professional opportunities with internships and projects that you'll get at the end. So we'll handle 5 or 6 questions at the end of the webinar today, but you know, please absolutely feel free to start typing in questions, and I'll put those in the queue, and then we'll get those going. But with that said, I do want to take a moment and allow you guys to all know who's on the webinar with me today. We've got 3 students. I think we'll let them introduce themselves, so please.
Awesome, thanks, Son. Hi everyone, my name is Florian. Thank you for joining us today. As you can hear, I am French. I spent the first 21 years of my life in France, moved to the US 6 years ago. I am an engineer at heart, so I got 2 masters in engineering and spent 4 years in the tech world before coming to Ross last year. I came to switch to consulting, and I got the chance to intern with Deloitte in Chicago, and I will be going back to Deloitte in Chicago after Ross. While at Ross, I'm the president of the European Business Student Association, and I'm also on the section leadership board of my section. I will dive deeper into this soon, but just to give you an overview of my international experiences while at Ross, I've been to Iceland as part of my M-Trek. I went to India with my MAP. I went to Germany for an immersion class, and I will be heading to Barcelona in January. So a lot of really cool stuff.
Great.
Cool. Hi guys, this is Olivia Ma. I am originally born and raised in China. Prior to Ross, well, first of all, I studied my undergrad in China and another master's degree in Michigan State in the US. prior to my MBA with Ross, I worked 4 years in the robotics industry with a Fortune 500 company called ABB. I was primarily responsible for market intelligence development, assisting management to develop strategies in sales and marketing area, and also was a product launch manager for a new robot back in Asia. I was in Japan and China for a year. In Ross, I have been heavily involved in a couple of activities. One is the Zero Loy Commercialization Fund, which is a pre-seed VC fund ran by our student. We make investments to early stage companies and working as a team, and it's really a signature action-based learning in Ross. And secondly, I'm leading a club called Data Insights and Analytics Group, where we source projects from corporations in the Midwest area and working on data-driven projects and then make recommendations for companies as well. So, and other than that, I did my MAP with Oracle in California, which was a really fun, rewarding experience. And also this summer, I spent my internship with Amazon in Seattle as a senior product manager, and we'll probably going back there next year after graduation. So I'm also going to, I also went to Israel as a global emerging course. So if you want to learn more about that, we can talk about the following part of the webinar.
Great.
And
all right.
Hello, my name is Emily Pearson. I'm also a second-year MBA, originally from the U.S., from the D.C. metro area. Before school, or before Ross, I worked at Deloitte Consulting in Boston, focusing on the financial services industry. Then when I came to Ross, I decided to explore the fintech route more, and so interned this summer at Citi FinTech, which is part of Citibank in New York, and will actually be going back to Deloitte to work more closely with their fintech practice post-graduation. In terms of what I've done while at Ross, I'll start with MAP. For MAP, I worked at Medtronic Diabetes in Los Angeles. That was fascinating, studying another highly regulated industry. And then I'm also one of the co-presidents of Design Plus Business. Design Plus Business is a club we have here that explores design thinking. So we teach it, give opportunities to practice using it, and connect students with companies that use it in their day-to-day activities. I'm also part of our section leadership, and how it relates to this discussion is I'm the outgoing president for MTRAC. And so I'll give a brief description of what that is now if you don't know it. MTRAC is a trip that MBA ones go on right after orientation and right before classes start. It's 10 days, and it gives you a chance to interact and meet other MBA ones and MBA twos, because all of the trips are planned by MBA twos. So it's a social, fun, bonding experience that people say is one of their favorite things about Ross. So near and dear to my heart.
Cool. All right, great. So with that said, you know, one of the things that I want to highlight today is when you choose to come to Ross, you know, you're coming to Ann Arbor, but you also get an opportunity to be really close in proximity to a really, really strong MBA student body. You know, our class size is about 400, about a third or a little bit over will be international students. And we do have 45 countries represented here in Ann Arbor for our full-time MBA program. I do want to make you think about one thing here, though. You know, I grew up in the Seattle area. I've lived in Chicago area. I've lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've lived in New York City. New York is where I went to graduate school. And so, you know, when you're in a big city, you'll find that you'll be with a very diverse set of students. But sometimes there's already that built-in network there. So, you know, you're gonna have to figure out a way to see everybody besides classes, or, you know, force family fun in terms of social activities. But here at Michigan, the honest truth is that you really don't have a choice but to be really close all the time. You know, when you're living together in Ann Arbor, everyone's probably, you know, a mile or so from each other, 1 or 2 kilometers. So you really are, you're eating together, you're working together, you're spending your social time together, your families get to know each other. So we really do mean it when you have access to this global community, because you're together literally all the time. So with that said, it's not only just your time as a student, but I also do want to point out that, you know, the Michigan community is more than just Ross itself. You know, you're going to have access to the overall Michigan, you know, and with the thing about the University of Michigan alumni is that no matter what their backgrounds are, they're very, very enthusiastic about helping you out, right? So our alumni association tells me that we have the largest alumni association or alumni worldwide, with over 500,000 people spread throughout 100 different countries. And the reason I point that out is that here at Michigan, it doesn't matter if you're a Ross graduate or not. You could be a medical school graduate or an undergrad graduate. If you call someone and say, hey, I went to Michigan too, they're going to help you out. And I used to be an MBA recruiter. I used to do it with a lot of different schools, and that's just not always the case at a lot of different business school programs. Some of them can be very isolated, but that's not here at all at Michigan. At Michigan, as I said, no matter what background you're coming from, no matter what school you graduated on, if you need help, you call them, they're going to be there for you. The other thing I want to point out is that in terms of lifelong alumni support, what we mean by that is, you know, not only will alumni and career development office be here for anything you want career-wise, you know, you also get access to a free executive education course, tuition-free, by being a Ross alumnus or alumna. It's, you know, that's always there for you. And the career office will actually help you throughout the rest of your career too. So what I always tell people is, you know, your first job after MBA is typically through career development, but your second, third, fourth job are going to be through your alumni network and the friends you've made in business school. So really, really keep that in mind. So, you know, once you feel comfortable with what we have here on campus and what you have out there, I do want to bring you back to campus for a second and think about the global student experiences you have. We have MAP, our multidisciplinary action projects, which is really the, you know, one of the core differentiators of our program, but we also do have other academic offerings in terms of immersion courses and semester exchanges, which our student panel will talk about. From a former recruiting point of view, I do want to point out a couple things about MAP. When I was a former recruiter and interviewer, I would always ask these behavioral-based interview questions, and our students, I thought, were at a tremendous advantage because they got to do a mini consulting project, usually outside their home country, so they could always reflect back on and give me good examples and show how well this succeed at my company eventually. But either way, just to give you an idea of what's out there, you can obviously take a look at the full list online, but I do want to say that our 400 students, as part of the required curriculum, took part in over 80 projects this past year in all different industries and different functions as well. You can really go outside your home country if you want to. You know, almost 3/4 of our students will participate in a MAP outside their home country, or at least have a travel element out of that too. So really great opportunity. As you see up there, you know, over 100 cities. We'll talk about some of the details if you have further questions, but again, MAP for us is a full 8-week program. We do not have any other classes during this time. And you really are around the world with, you know, the Amazons, the Oracles, the Microsofts, as well as everything to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, the Delta Airlines, so to Ford. Again, any industry you want, we'll have it represented here. So besides MAP, I do want to jump into one of the first things we have to offer, and that's immersion courses. Now, this takes place a couple times a year. It's a 2-week course, and we have it in 7 different countries. And I actually want 2 of our panelists to look back and talk a little bit about their program and why they went on their program. So, Florian, you want to go first and talk about what you did for your immersion?
Yes, definitely. As I said, you know, I went to Germany for my immersion program back in May. The reason I decided to go there is that being French and having moved to the US 6 years ago, I felt like I kind of lost touch with how Europe is doing and how business is done in Europe. And what the immersion course allows you to do is really to understand how business is done in this region of the world. As Son mentioned, there are 3 programs in Germany, China, and Israel. So I chose Germany to get back in touch with Europe, kind of. And basically, what we do during this immersion course is we have a dozen different classes with a dozen different professors to touch on everything that impacts the economy in this region of the world. And then in a couple times a week, we also visit the main organizations that kind of regulate the economies. So to give you a couple examples, we had a full day at the ECB, the European Central Bank, where a couple of their executives walked us through what the European Central Bank had been doing since 2007 to kind of alleviate the impact of the economic crisis on Europe and where they were at now. And they really dived deep into, on one hand, we have Greece and Ireland not doing too well. On the other hand, we have Germany who's doing great. And how do you put together a policy that's good for all of these people? And it's really, you really go deep into the weeds of what's really happening and what these big organizations that you read in the news are really thinking. And you really have exposure to like I said, to the executive in these organizations. We also visited a luxury winery that included some free wine tasting, so that was pretty cool. We also visited Commerzbank, which is the second largest bank in Germany. And by the end of the 2 weeks, I really felt like I was able to take everything I had learned at Ross in my first year and apply it and customize it to how business was done in Europe. And when I came back, and when I was reading the news about what was happening in Europe, I really felt like I had a customized lens to analyze everything I was reading about France, Brexit, and all these current events that we are really exposed to. And yeah, these 2 weeks were easily one of the highlights of my experience at Ross. The ROI on this $500 trip was just amazing. So I really recommend to do it if you are lucky enough to have you at Ross.
All right. Great. And Olivia, you went to Israel, right?
Yes. Happy to talk about my Israel experience. So, well, first of all, there are a couple of reasons why I chose Israel, even though Germany program sounds pretty awesome as well. So I traveled to some part of Europe, and I'm personally from Asia. Also traveled in North America, but I always feel like there's a part missing about traveling to the Middle East, especially Israel as such a different country. And also, this is a country that's been known for startup nation. And then as someone who is very interested in technology and innovations, I've always heard about Israel has built an ecosystem from the private sector to the VC to the society has an entrepreneur culture and then the government support in order for a startup to succeed. So these are the things that's driving me to really want to attend the program, and because the program provides a really comprehensive overview of how that startup ecosystem look like in Israel. So diving a little bit deeper into the program itself, it's also a 2 weeks program with, I would say, 3 key components. One is the academic part. So we were hosted by the Tel Aviv University in Tel Aviv, Israel. And then the format is, case studies about local businesses and industries, discussions, and also lectures led by professors in Israel to help us get understanding of the Israeli economy, the history of this country, why there's entrepreneur culture, and how tech industries evolve in this country. So the second pillar is company visit. So that would range from early stage startup in Israel and also some large scale Israeli companies. We covered many industries and some interesting areas as well. For example, agriculture part, the dripping irrigation solutions that invented Israel, and also pharmaceutical sectors and software industry as well. So the last component I would say is the culture tour. So this is a program that they actually lead you to some part of the country and then introduce the history and help you to understand this country. So as part of the agenda, we visited the Museum of Jewish People in Tel Aviv. We visited Jaffa, which is the ancient port city in Israel, and also the old city Jerusalem, where we visited the Western Wall. And also there's an area called Kibbutz, which is really different kind of world where people can jointly build and work together, self-sufficient in every way. But everything was super interesting. And then so there's a weekend between the 2 weeks. So a group of students organized on different trips, where my group went on a trip to hike Masada and visited Dead Sea as well, which is an amazing combination from awesome experience. And Tel Aviv is really a nice city with good nightlife. I would highly recommend this program to anyone come to Ross.
All right, great. So in addition to these shorter immersion courses, we also have the opportunity for a longer semester exchange. And so it's really up to you to think about how you want to manage your time in business school, right? I think a 2-week shot is always a really good opportunity to just step away from campus for a little bit and then come back and be a business school student again. But again, if you want a little more international flavor, we have those available as well with an exchange. And so again, it could be half or full semester. Typically, if you're doing a full semester exchange, it'll be during your second year, just logistically, as the first year is all core and then MAP. So I'm going to show you a list of some of the exchange programs we have, and actually go back to Florian again, because we're going to miss him as he's taking off to go to Spain, I believe. Can you just walk us through what you'll be doing in Spain for all that time?
Yes, definitely. So I think this was the hardest decision I had to make while at Ross, deciding to leave for 3 months or stay at Ross, because as you will see, as you start your MBA experience, time really flies. And it was a hard decision to make on whether I wanted to do an exchange or not. And basically, there are a couple reasons why I decided to go to Barcelona in Spain. So I will go to ESADE from January to March, as the exchange program that Sanj described. The main reason for that is that Ross has partnerships with some of the top schools around the world, and ESADE is really renowned for being one of the, or actually being the best school in Europe for entrepreneurship. And I really think that my midlife crisis will be to create my own company back in France. So having the chance to go to ESADE to kind of build these entrepreneurial skills I will need once I hopefully go back to Europe at some point will be key for me to succeed. So as I said, a lot of schools we partner with are really known for some specific, building some specific skills. For me, I was interested in entrepreneurship, so I went to ESADE. It also happens that my family is a 2-hour drive from Barcelona. So having been in the US for 6 years, it was also a great way to spend some time with my family and friends and do some travel in Europe. So yeah, this is the main reason why I chose Barcelona. Happy to talk more about it if you have some questions, but I'm really excited about it.
All right, great. All right, so besides those academic opportunities, as I said, you can travel abroad by going on international MAP, or you can do a short-term immersion course, or you can do a full semester exchange. Those are there obviously for you. The other thing I want to highlight too is, and it really is a highlight of a lot of our students' experience here, is really MTREC. And I'm going to leave it to Emily, as she is the outgoing president.
Thank you. So I jumped the gun and I told you what MTREC was earlier. But to recap, MTREC is social, so non-academic, definitely not academic, trip that students go on after orientation and before classes. Each trip consists of 10 to 20 people, with about 3/4 of those being MBA 1s and the last quarter being MBA 2s. The entire trip is planned by MBA 2s, so they're super excited to go and explore a new country with you. And what's so great about it is it gives you the opportunity to form relationships with your classmates before you get so busy with just your class schedule and your club schedule and your recruiting schedule, and you have a group of people that you can go back to and ask questions. It's a safe space. You can rely on them. I know that I still talk to all of my MTREC people almost every day. They're some of my best friends. So just to give you a little bit more information on the MTRECs from this year, it's a 10-day trip. This year we had 29 treks that went to over 40 locations hitting 5 continents, aka we did not go to Antarctica. And 2 of them were mystery treks. This means that you sign up for it and you have no idea where you're gonna go. In August, you'll get a packing list, and the packing list usually consists of bringing a bathing suit and a ski cap, so you really doesn't not help in figuring out where you're going to go. But you get to the airport, you'll get your ticket, and then hopefully that's not a connecting city, and you'll continue on your way and you're surprised. So it takes a special person to want to do that trip. I'm not interested, but it's a ton of fun. And then we also have partner treks. So if you want to bring your partner with you, you can, and you can meet some of the other partners that are in the program to start building those relationships as well. And then we also have domestic treks as well as international treks. This year we had 3 domestic treks. And that just gives an opportunity for one, if you are coming from abroad and the US is international for you, you can explore a different part of the US. And then also the domestic treks tend to be less expensive because they're closer. So it gives another option there. Happy to answer any other questions you have on those, but you'll definitely hear more of those as you interact more and more at Ross.
All right, cool. We're already getting some now. All right, cool. I do want to touch base on a couple other things and then open it up for some general questions. We have a couple of specific questions already, and if they're super specific, I'll actually cycle them to our individual students later. But for right now, I just want to talk about other travel. We call these treks as well. And these treks are 3 of the most common ones we've had throughout the last few years. And these smaller treks, Israel Trek, J Trek, or I Trek, India Trek, sorry, is an opportunity where actual MBAs will just say, hey, come back to our home country. We're going to set up a week of travel, and we're going to really show you what it's like. Just as I said, over a third of our students are international, and so it's an opportunity for them to really share their home and to set up a bunch of cultural activities and fun activities and educational activities as well. And again, these will change from year to year a little bit depending on what students want to invite you back to their home country and travel with them. But that's another opportunity for some social travel. But back to kind of career and internships too, there's one more point I wanted to make before I go to the questions, is that there's also a variety of other projects outside of just the ones that I mentioned or outside just the pure classroom experience that you can try to take part in. So we have the William Davidson Institute here that does a lot with emerging markets and development. They sponsor a few Ross students to go on what they call their global impact internships. So if you have an area, as I said, like in emerging markets that you're interested in, that's another opportunity to take a summer and work on that. If you're interested in operations and supply chain and you're part of the Tauber Institute, they have a few of their summer team projects that have an international base as well. And then URB is for our students that are doing the dual degree in MBA and sustainability. And they sponsor a few internships with our full-time MBA program, as well as give funding. So a couple $100, a couple $1,000 to go do what they call an impact project. So if you have a passion for something in sustainability and you want some extra funding, that can be domestic or international. They'll help provide you with some funds to go out there and make a difference in your own way internationally. So I know we've touched base on a lot of different things. I know that there's, as I said, going global will bring about a bunch of different moving pieces. And so with that said, I'm going to go back here and address some of the questions we've had. So the first one is, I'll direct towards Olivia. A student asked if you have to apply to get into the immersion programs, or do you just tell the academic office you want to go? What's that process like?
Yeah, sure. So the application process does require an essay to just let students to express their interest and talk about why do you want to go on this program to Israel, and then maybe refer to your previous experience, show your passion about innovation and entrepreneurship. So I believe it is not, I believe there is some selection process based on your essay. Mm-hmm. But then my experience is that it's not super competitive, and as long as you genuinely show your interest and passion, and you get it.
All right, great. We'll go to Florian for this one. We have a question that's asking, how much planning did you have to do for the semester abroad? Did you have to move any classes around your first year or second year to make that semester in Spain work?
Yeah, that's a great question. There is a list of requirements that you must meet to graduate. So this includes having enough credits, having taken one law class, one competing in global market class. So there are a couple of things you need to make sure you do to get your degree. And so in order to go on this exchange in Barcelona, I did have to take these classes and these requirements in my first year and the first half of my second year. That being said, it's very easy to do this if you already know that you might be interested in taking in enrolling in this exchange program. It's very easy to plan for these couple of classes and making sure you have enough credits to go on the trip. It's really it's really not hard. And I will second what Olivia said about the selection process for both the Germany immersion trip as well as the exchange program. As long as you show genuine interest, in my experience, you do usually get selected for the program.
All right. Okay, Emily, I'm going to go to you now. We've got a couple of Amtrak specific questions. So I'm going to probably do 2 or 3 in a row.
Okay.
All right. The first one is someone's asking for maybe 1 or 2 examples of what goes on in a trek. So can you just give an example, like maybe 2 examples of 2 different cities we might have picked this year and what we did on those trips?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with my trek. So this year I led a trek to Brazil and Argentina, stopping over in the Iguazu Falls, going between the countries. And what we did in specifically in Rio and Buenos Aires is we took one day or half a day to explore the cities. So we got a city tour. So in Rio, we saw Christ the Redeemer. We went to Sugarloaf Mountain, did the traditional touristy things that you would do. But we also decided to integrate some form of dance class on our trip. So in Rio, we all learned the samba. So you can go ask anyone on my trek to break out the samba. And then in Buenos Aires, we learned the tango. So that was a lot of fun. And then we saw a tango show up afterwards. So we saw how basic they made it for us in the class. But then to contrast that, there was a trip actually last year that I'll pull from that went to France, and they biked all over France. So they probably biked, I think, like 20 miles a day. And so that one was super, super active. Whereas there's others that went to Bali this year and went to the beach all day. So there's a wide variety in terms of what you can do. You can just like chill on the beach. You can be super, super active. There's others that are more like party heavy, and there's some that have more of a balance of everything. And you can actually go to amtrak.org, and that's where all of the tracks from this last year are listed. And you'll see that they're each rated on a couple different categories, such as activity levels and leisurely activities. So you can judge and rank trips based on that.
All right, next one. How do you determine what locations the Amtraks go on? Is it from where students are from or by demand? How do you guys determine that?
Yeah, so all the tracks are planned by MBA2s. So what we do is we ask the MBA2s to form groups and to pick where they want to go. And then there is a group called the Amtrak board, which is what I sit on, that just verifies that we don't have a ton of trips going to the same location. So for example, this last year, there were probably 7 groups that wanted to go to Croatia, but we didn't want 7 trips going to Croatia. So they have a couple other locations that they list that they would also be happy going to. So we just make sure that there's not too much overlap, but it's completely up to the MBA2 class. All
right, great. I'm going to take maybe 2 more questions and then let everybody go today. So the other question I can answer real quickly is someone asked, are the immersion locations predetermined? And that would be yes. So we have all the logistics at our program office and academic services plans ahead of time. So you can't exactly create your own 2-week immersion program somewhere and find some university that can host you. So what we have on the board is really what's available for those 2-week programs. So the last question that we want to take is kind of stranded about FOMO. And the question that I'm going to have all 3 of the panelists answer today was, did you pick Ross knowing that you wanted to do global things, or did it not really factor so much in your choice? And feel free to be honest. We have a lot of offerings, but it's just kind of depending on people's views. But can you just talk about the role that global opportunities or classes played in how you picked a business school. And let's go reverse order. So Emily, you want to start us off with this one? Did it really impact your choice for business school at all?
It did. So I looked at both the global opportunities and the cost. So some of the other schools I were looking with were in higher cost locations, and I knew that if I had to pay rent in those higher cost locations, I would have less money to spend on travel. And so one of many reasons, but that it was a contributing factor to why I picked Ross.
That's so savvy. I didn't even think that. I didn't think about it that way. Wow. All right. Olivia, you have any closing thoughts on how you picked?
So for me, I think the global experience and opportunities to study abroad, no matter it's a short-term or longer-term program, definitely is part of my decision metrics when I pick Ross. For me, I personally didn't go to the Amtrak or the semester-long program because I have families in the area that I don't want to kind of be away for too long. So the 2 weeks immersion course is perfect for me to experience global, experience global program, but also don't have to be apart for too long. So this is really, I think Ross really tailor experience to different students' needs, and you will find the program that's best for you, and I would highly recommend the program.
All right, cool. In closing, yeah.
Awesome. So, and I have a disease, I'm very, very transparent, so I'm going to be transparent here. When I chose the schools I applied to, I did not take into account international opportunities. With retrospect, that was a mistake for a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm just going to quote two of the reasons I really recommend you keep on your mind as you select schools. The first one is make sure you choose a school that has some kind of an Amtrak trip organized at the beginning of the year. Not every school does that. Ross is not the only one that does that, but this really, as Emily said, this really creates, this is a great experience that really helps you out and allows you to hit the ground running as you start your MBA. So once I got accepted into schools, I did reject a couple of schools because they did not have this Amtrak or Amtrak-like trip. And the second thing I really encourage you to think about is the MAP experience. The 2-year MBA is really a time to travel as much as you can, especially internationally. And you can do this in any school you are in, really. But as far as I know, Ross is the only school that allows you to go work for a company in another country for 7 weeks, where everything is paid for and you're fully immersed in another country. As I said, I went to India for MAP, and I can tell you that I've been to 28 countries. I studied and worked in half a dozen countries, and I can tell you that working in a country is very different from just visiting as a tourist or doing a 2-week class in a country. So the opportunity to do a MAP internationally will really change how you view the world and really push you out of your comfort zone. And now that I've seen how great MAP was for me, I would have used this as a really high criteria for me to choose an MBA school. So in retrospect, please do consider international opportunities a lot more than I did, because this is also a huge part of your experience.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for the great call outs, guys. I mean, I think our students are always able to provide some really nice perspective on that. So with that said, I know we've got probably 8 or 9 questions that are very, very specific to each of our panelists, and I will share those with the panelists themselves so they can answer you guys offline. But otherwise, I do want to say we've got many more webinars coming up the next few weeks, including one for career changes on Thursday. So feel free to jump back on with me here. But otherwise, please keep us in the loop, keep us updated, and we will look forward to hearing from you more. So have a good afternoon, everybody. Goodbye.